Welcome, everyone, to vpod.ai. I'm Mike, and joining me is our guest expert, Susan. You can sponsor this podcast for just $25. Your message will be featured across major platforms like Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and more. If you're interested, visit vpod.ai to get started today. So, I want to talk about mornings because most people think pouring a bowl of, heart-healthy whole wheat cereal at 7 a.m. is a really responsible choice.
Oh, absolutely. It's what we've all been taught to do.
Right. But in reality, physiologically speaking, you're just setting yourself up for this massive energy crash by like 10 a.m.
Yeah, that bowl of cereal, even if the box claims to be whole grain, is essentially just a rapid glucose injection.
Wow, a glucose injection.
Pretty much. The typical morning convenience foods, you probably reach for the cereals, the pastries, those little quick O packets, they trigger this violently huge metabolic swing.
But the thing is, if you spend just a little time prepping on the weekend, you can actually trick your body into sustained all-day energy. And you can do it using real food that, well, actually tastes good.
Exactly. You don't have to suffer through a boring breakfast to feel good.
So before we get into the practical application, the freeze-friendly waffles and the casseroles, we need to establish the baseline here. Like, what is physically happening in your stomach and your bloodstream at 7 a.m.?
Right, the physiology is the key.
Because there's this golden rule we need to talk about, which is that a morning meal should consist of at least 30% protein, which sounds like a really aggressive benchmark to me.
It does sound high, but it all comes down to this concept called macronutrient synergy.
Okay, break that down for us.
So when you consume a carbohydrate-heavy breakfast, the enzymes in your saliva and your stomach, they just rapidly cleave those starches down into simple sugars.
And those sugars just flood the bloodstream, right?
Exactly. They flood in, which prompts your pancreas to release a massive surge of insulin to try and clear all that glucose out.
Which is where the crash comes from.
You got it. The result is that sharp spike, followed by this steep drop that leaves you super fatigued and, reaching for another pastry by mid-morning.
But when you introduce a heavy dose of protein, along with healthy fats and fiber, you fundamentally alter that whole digestive environment.
You really do. You are physically changing the rate at which your stomach empties into the intestines.
Because the protein and fat are actively delaying that gastric emptying, right?
Right. And meanwhile, the fiber is trapping the carbohydrates in this sort of viscous gel inside the digestive tract.
Oh, so it's physically blocking the enzymes from breaking the starches down too quickly.
Yes. By slowing that metabolic processing, you blunt the blood sugar spike entirely. You get this nice, slow, steady release of glucose into the blood.
Which means significantly higher satiety. Like you actually feel full.
And it drastically reduces those mid-afternoon cravings that everyone struggles with.
If you picture your metabolism as a campfire, eating a typical high-sugar breakfast like that bowl of cereal is basically like throwing a loose sheet of newspaper onto the fire.
That is a perfect way to visualize it.
Right. You get this huge, incredibly bright flame that looks super impressive for about, 30 seconds.
And then it's just gone.
It burns out completely, leaving you with cold ash, and you are just starving by mid-morning.
But if you bring in fiber and protein, that is like throwing a dense oak log onto the fire.
It takes a little longer to catch.
It does, but once it catches, it burns steady, it burns hot, and it provides this consistent warmth for hours and hours.
We also need to factor in the micronutrients here, though.
Yeah.
I feel like we often just talk about protein and carbs like they're crude fuel for a furnace.
Oh, absolutely. People forget about the micronutrients.
But real unprocessed food delivers the vitamins and minerals that act as cellular cofactors. Your body needs those specific micronutrients first thing in the morning just to generate ATP.
Yes, the actual energy currency of your cells.
Exactly.
When you wake up, your body is emerging from like an 8-hour fast. Your cellular processes require very specific chemical catalysts to restart efficiently.
So if you feed the system processed, refined flours,
you are basically forcing the body to process calories without providing the underlying chemical tools required to actually utilize them properly.
Which sets up a huge practical challenge. Because, let's be honest, people crave sweet, carb-heavy foods in the morning.
They do. Nobody wakes up craving dry chicken.
Right. A plate of dry chicken breast hits that 30% protein rule perfectly, but nobody wants to eat that at sunrise.
Definitely not.
So how do we apply this oak log science to the traditional breakfast profiles people actually enjoy? Things like waffles and oatmeal.
Well, you utilize ingredients that mimic the texture of carbohydrates, but totally alter the glycemic profile.
Okay, give me an example. Like for waffles.
For waffles, you can swap out the refined white flour for oat flour, which is incredibly rich in beta-glucan fiber.
Nice.
And then you incorporate eggs. Eggs are a complete protein powerhouse, obviously, but they also provide choline.
And choline is super important for the brain, right?
Right. It is the raw material your brain uses to synthesize acetylcholine. That's a neurotransmitter that is strictly required for memory and focus.
So if you want to be sharp for, say, a morning meeting, you really need choline.
Exactly.
I also noticed the waffle recipe calls for blending cottage cheese directly into the batter, which sounds weird, but I'm intrigued.
It sounds strange, but cottage cheese is packed with casein protein.
Which digests a lot slower than whey protein, right?
Much slower. It provides a steady drip of amino acids over several hours. And when you blend it, the curds smooth out entirely.
So you don't end up with chunks of cheese in your waffle.
No, not at all. It bakes into the waffle, creating this golden, crispy exterior and a super soft interior. There's no discernible cheese flavor, but it massively elevates the protein profile.
Okay, wait, I notice a biological contradiction here, or at least it feels like one to me.
Oh, what did you catch?
So, cultured cottage cheese is a fermented food, meaning it contains live, gut-healthy probiotic bacteria.
That's right.
But if you pour that batter into a blazing hot waffle iron, isn't the heat going to completely eradicate those bacterial cultures?
Oh, it totally does. The heat denatures the proteins that make up the cellular walls of the bacteria.
So they just die.
Yeah, at those temperatures, the structural integrity of the cell just collapses. The membrane ruptures and the probiotics are completely destroyed.
So you lose the microbiome benefits entirely.
You do, though you still retain the protein and the calcium, which is great.
But then another recipe suggests making high-protein Greek yogurt popsicles for breakfast.
Yes, the popsicles are amazing.
You mix the yogurt with fruit or dark chocolate and freeze it solid. But here's my question. If extreme heat destroys the cellular walls of the probiotics, why doesn't extreme cold do the exact same thing?
That is such a good question.
Because freezing expands water, right? Shouldn't the ice crystals just rupture the bacteria?
It's actually a fascinating cellular mechanism. See, extreme heat causes violent molecular movement, which tears the cell apart. Freezing, however, simply slows molecular movement down to a near halt. As long as the freezing process isn't repeatedly fluctuating back and forth, the lipid bilayer of the probiotic cell remains intact.
Really? So the bacteria just survive?
They simply enter a state of suspended metabolic animation. They shut down and basically go to sleep.
Wow. So they're completely dormant in the freezer.
Yes. And once you eat that Greek yogurt popsicle, the ambient heat of your own digestive tract thaws the bacteria out.
That is wild.
The molecular movement speeds back up, and the probiotics essentially wake up right inside your gut, fully active and ready to pollinize your microbiome.
That is a brilliant application of food science right there.
It really is.
Because you get the convenience of a frozen grab-and-go meal that actively repairs your gut flora. And you can apply this to breakfast cookies too, right?
Oh yeah, mixing nut butter, mashed bananas, and chia or flax seeds.
The mashed bananas act as a binder, but since they introduce fructose, the healthy fats in the nut butter immediately offset it to flatten that glucose spike.
Exactly. You are consciously designing the food to manipulate your digestion.
So what about oatmeal? Because even with added fiber, a standard bowl of oats and maple syrup is essentially just a giant bowl of carbohydrates.
Yeah, oats by themselves definitely do not meet that 30% protein threshold.
So what's the fix?
The solution is baked oatmeal. You combine the oats with hemp hearts.
Hemp hearts?
Yeah, they introduce a massive dose of plant-based protein and anti-inflammatory omega-3 fatty acids. Then you add dark chocolate chips, which have a much lower sugar content, and a significantly higher antioxidant profile than milk chocolate.
Okay, that sounds really good.
You bake this whole mixture in a pan, slice it into dense little squares, and just freeze them.
So you pull a frozen square out on like a random Tuesday morning, heat it up, and the hemp hearts have actively altered the glycemic index curve of the oats.
Precisely. And when you reheat it, if you top it with a dollop of that Greek yogurt or a drizzle of almond butter, you add another layer of fat and protein.
Which further slows down the enzymatic breakdown of the oats in your stomach.
You're getting the hang of it.
I love it. Now, both the baked oatmeal and the high-protein waffle recipes recommend incorporating a very specific protein supplement to close the nutritional gap.
Yes, they do.
And it isn't a standard whey isolate, which is what I would have guessed. It is collagen.
Collagen is so important.
And when you look at the historical context, Collagen isn't just some modern wellness trend. It's actually a lost ancestral dietary habit.
It really is. If you look at human history, our ancestors ate a nose-to-tail diet.
Right, they used everything.
They did not just selectively consume the lean muscle meat, which is what totally dominates the modern Western diet today.
Yeah, we just eat boneless, skinless chicken breasts and, like, muscle meat steaks.
Exactly. But our ancestors consumed bone-in cuts, they boiled down carcasses into slow-cooked stews over several days, and they ate the skins and the connective tissues.
And because of those practices, their daily diets naturally contained incredibly high levels of dietary collagen,
While our modern diets are virtually devoid of it.
which is a huge problem.
Huh.
Because collagen is not just a generic protein source.
Not at all. It has a completely unique amino acid profile. It's specifically characterized by super high concentrations of glycine and proline.
And those amino acids do what exactly?
They form this rigid triple helix molecular structure. When you consume them, your body uses them to build and repair physical architecture.
So it's essential for hair, skin, and nails.
Yes, but structurally, it is critical for the cartilage in your joints, the density of your bones, and even maintaining the mucosal lining of your digestive tract.
Wait, I read that the human body actually utilizes 10 distinct types of collagen to support these different structural areas.
Yes, 10 different types.
From, like, the cornea of the eye all the way to the intervertebral discs in your spine.
That structural diversity is exactly why a multi-collagen supplement is necessary. You can't just take one type and expect it to fix everything.
But there is a massive biochemical hurdle here that I feel like most people completely ignore.
The vitamin C connection.
Yes. Consuming collagen peptides is virtually useless if you are deficient in vitamin C.
It's a huge blind spot for so many people.
Can you explain why that is?
Sure. So inside your cells, there are specific enzymes responsible for taking the collagen peptides you just ate and weaving them into the existing collagen fibers of your body.
Okay, weaving them together.
Right. And those enzymes are entirely dependent on vitamin C to function. Vitamin C acts as the chemical catalyst.
So if collagen is the bricks used to rebuild your joints, vitamin C is the mortar.
That is a brilliant analogy. Without it, the cross-linking process fails, and the structural integrity of the newly formed collagen is just incredibly weak.
You literally just have a useless pile of bricks sitting in your system.
Exactly, which is why high-quality brands like Ancient Nutrition's multi-collagen intentionally formulate their powder with vitamin C already included.
To guarantee that synergistic reaction actually happens.
Yes, they do the work for you.
So you drop a scoop of that specific powder into the waffle batter or the baked oatmeal. You get the complex amino acids, the vitamin C acts as the chemical mortar to bind it, and you are essentially mimicking the nutritional density of an ancestral nose-to-tail diet while eating a breakfast pastry.
You are leveraging modern food science to replicate the biological inputs our bodies evolved to expect.
That is just so cool. So that covers the sweet applications pretty well. But if someone wants to completely flatline their morning glycemic response, they need to look at savory options, right?
Definitely. Removing the oats and the maple syrup entirely and just relying on the pure protein density of the egg.
Because the egg is an incredibly efficient biological packet.
Oh, it's amazing. A standard egg contains roughly 70 calories, but it delivers about 6 grams of highly bioavailable protein.
So that means an egg is roughly 32% protein, which automatically hits that golden rule we established earlier.
It's perfect.
The problem with eggs, though, is the friction of actually cooking them on a busy weekday morning.
It can be a hassle, yeah.
Frying eggs, cleaning the skillet, dealing with the spatula, just takes time that people don't have. So how do we engineer eggs for convenience without degrading their nutritional value?
You engineer them into a freeze-friendly casserole.
A casserole.
Specifically, a hash brown breakfast casserole. You take pre-shredded potatoes, and brands like Alexia are really useful here because they avoid inflammatory seed oils.
I see.
And you mix those with cooked ground sausage, whole eggs, and some cheese. But the critical substitution here is swapping out the traditional sour cream for whole milk Greek yogurt.
Ah, so you are stacking the Greek yogurt protein right on top of the egg protein.
Exactly, while still maintaining that high-fat, creamy texture you really need for a good casserole.
But wait, freezing raw eggs and shredded potatoes in the same dish seems problematic to me.
Why's that?
Well, doesn't the moisture from the freezing process make the potatoes incredibly soggy once the whole thing thaws out?
If you froze just potatoes in water, yes. The cellular walls of the potato would rupture and weep a ton of moisture upon thawing.
Right.
But The Greek yogurt and the egg proteins create this incredibly thick, viscous matrix. They completely coat the starches in the potato.
Oh, I see.
So when you move the raw frozen casserole to the fridge to thaw and then put it in the oven, the egg proteins coagulate very rapidly.
So they bind the moisture and the starches together before the potato even has a chance to weep.
Exactly. Resulting in a firm, structurally sound casserole every time.
That's amazing. You do the messy bowl mixing and the raw assembly on like a lazy Sunday afternoon, freeze it solid, and then get a freshly baked, hot, savory breakfast on a Wednesday morning without actively cooking anything.
It's a game changer, and the same principle applies to quiche, too.
Quiche is great for clearing out the fridge.
It's an excellent vehicle for using up leftover vegetables and delivering a massive dose of eggs and cheese.
But the primary reason people avoid making quiche is the pie crust. I mean, the rolling pin, the flour dusting the entire counter, the resting time for the dough in the fridge.
It's a lot of friction.
Skipping the rolling pin eliminates the exact friction that stops me from cooking on a Sunday.
Well, you can bypass that entirely with a specific crust manipulation.
Okay, I'm taking notes. How do we do it?
You completely skip rolling out the dough. You take fresh milled flour, ideally a hard white wheat, because it has a higher protein content,
Got it.
and you mix it directly with melted butter, salt, and about 6 or 7 tablespoons of ice water. But here's the trick. You agitate the mixture just until it becomes crumbly.
So you do not knead it into a smooth ball.
No kneading whatsoever.
Because by not kneading it, you are preventing the gluten network from fully developing right.
Exactly. The gluten strands require mechanical manipulation to align and become elastic.
So by just tossing it until it's crumbly, you're providing just enough hydration for the fat to bind the flour particles together without creating that tough elasticity.
You take that crumbly mixture, dump it directly into your pie dish, and just use your fingers to physically press it across the bottom and up the sides.
It is literally a purely mechanical press-in crust. That's brilliant.
It saves so much time, but then you must par-bake it.
Why is that?
You put that empty crust into a 375-degree oven for about 10 minutes. This sets the starches and creates a hydrophobic barrier.
Oh, so when you pour the wet egg mixture in later, the bottom crust doesn't become all soggy and gross.
Precisely. And the filling is so simple. Just 6 eggs, a cup of liquid half milk and half cream, some parsley, salt, pepper, and cheese.
And can you freeze it?
You can freeze that par-baked crust, or you can mix the raw egg filling and keep it in a jar in the fridge until you are ready to combine them and bake.
Because the overarching objective here isn't to execute some flawless Michelin star culinary technique.
Not at all. The objective is to secure high-quality, biologically appropriate fuel and completely eliminate the daily decision fatigue of figuring out what to eat at dawn.
It really demonstrates that you do not have to choose between a mid-morning sugar crash and waking up an hour early to stand over a hot stove.
You don't have to choose. There's a better way.
By systematically utilizing your freezer, whether it is raw hash brown casserole matrices or frozen yogurt probiotics waking up in your gut, or those baked oatmeal squares altered with hemp hearts, you can totally override the modern convenience trap.
It's empowering.
When you grasp the mechanics of how protein and fiber delay gastric emptying like that slow-burning oak log, and how ancestral compounds like collagen structurally rebuild your joints using vitamin C, you can completely reconstruct your morning routine.
It allows you to actually reclaim your physiological baseline. And honestly, it raises a much larger question regarding our daily habits.
What do you mean?
Well, if our modern, highly processed, so-called convenient breakfasts are so fundamentally at odds with human biology that they actually induce chronic fatigue,
Yeah.
to the point where we have to consciously look back to ancestral nose-to-tail diets just to figure out how to stabilize our own blood sugar.
It makes you wonder.
It really does. What other modern conveniences in your daily routine are silently draining your capacity to function?
That is wild to consider. Think about that the next time you try to throw a piece of newspaper on the fire.